With regards to the number one pick in the draft, the New England Patriots have entered the chat. A major injury in college football shakes up both the college football playoff and how the quarterback drafts stacks up. How do the linebackers stack up in the 2024 draft? All that and more coming up next on the Draft Countdown Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Draft Countdown Podcast. I'm your co-host, Brian Bosarge, joined as always by my co-host, Shane P. Hallam. Shane, we are 154 days, 22 hours, 58 minutes, and 16 seconds away from the 2024 NFL Draft.
Yeah, well, we are down to rivalry week. It is coming up almost like running out of film here after we got two, this week, conference championships, bowls, and then it's on to the draft. We're here, man.
Yep, the hay is almost fully in the barn, as they say. But if you're following along live for the first time, we ask you go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have a question, ask it right there in the chat. Or if you're following along on Twitter, you can ask us a question there at Draft Countdown. Or if you're a member of our Discord, ask a question there. Or if you're not, go to draftcountdown.com, top right corner of the search bar. Click the Discord link and join up for some lively chats, especially during college game days and pro game days and stuff. We give live updates of when, as soon as we get all-star updates and stuff, we post them there. And we're going to talk a lot more about those a little bit later, Shane. But it is that time of the week where we look at the top 10 of the NFL draft and look at that order update. We still got a name at the top saying Chicago is still sitting there with the Panthers pick at 1. Arizona still sitting there at 2. I don't feel like they're going to stay that high with Kyler Murray.
You said that last week.
I said that last week, but man, I wasn't expecting. They play Houston, right?
Yeah.
The Stroud effect, man. You can't handle that right now.
They got 3 interceptions on them,
and still won. But as I mentioned in the open, New England has entered the chat here for that top pick. That team is bad right now, and they are now holding the number 3 pick in the draft. They are a half game behind the top here. It's not looking good there in Belichick land. What's going on there, Shane?
I mean, look, I think this is my opinion. I think we've known for a long time Bill Belichick maybe isn't the best GM in the world. I still think he's a great head coach, but like the roster is devoid of talent all over the place. You can't win games that way. So we'll see who's starting your quarterback. It's not Mac Jones this week. Might be Bailey Zappi. It might be, we talked about a lot last year. Malik Cunningham, rookie, might be starting. We'll see. Probably not. Well, we'll see. But this is the game. They as you'll get to number 5 here in a bit. Who the Patriots are playing might be for the number 1 pick.
And that would be if Malik Cunningham does inevitably. He's probably going to start a game before the season's over with, right? He would be the 11th rookie quarterback to start a game this year. We've already set the record, and now we've got 11. Could have 11. Chicago picking 4th. Justin Fields back in the lineup this week. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was back last week and had a good game. So we'll see if the Bears they competed. They should have beaten the Lions, to be honest. So Monday Night Football against the Vikings, I think they could win this game and start getting a win or two here down the stretch.
Number 5 is the Giants. Tommy DeVito gets the win last week at quarterback for the Giants, and they play New England this week.
Yeah, so it could be Tommy DeVito against Malik Cunningham. these are teams that either won't pick. Yes,
this is a thing that's happening in the NFL.
So surprised how well he played. But if the Giants want a quarterback, they can't win many more games.
Speaking of rookie quarterbacks, the Tennessee Titans and Will Levis here at 6. The shine sure fell off that. The bloom sure fell off that rose really quick, didn't it? Old Will Levis there.
Yeah, look, both of us had said when we started the top 10, like we expect Tennessee to be there, and they've fallen all the way down to 6.
Washington here at 7th. Sam Howell's played well, but they're just not winning games. Atlanta turns back to Desmond Ridder at quarterback because it says Heineke hurt.
He's hurt,
or is he just bad? And
both, but hurt and benched.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Number 9 here is Green Bay, and they got a win this past week. So they're at 9. 10th is Tampa Bay, and that's it for the top 10. I do want to make note of the current team sitting at 17th, probably in for a fall here, right? Joe Burrow, an acute injury to his wrist, surgery done, out for the year. It's not good over here for the home team, Shane.
No, not great for you. Jake Browning starting is not inspiring confidence. We have, the Jets at 11. We have Tim Boyle starting for the Jets. So I think, the Bengals still have a good defense. Maybe they can win some games, but I think both. I think the Bengals might be moving up the list a little bit, Brian. Unfortunately,
I'm going to say this though. I don't know how much they're going to move up the list.
No, it's fine. I think they'll hover in that.
I'm expecting in the 13 to 16 range is where I think they're going to win 3 games the rest of the way. I'll go on record and say I think they finish 8 and 9 and end up in that 13 to 16 range. Just looking at the schedule that's left, and like you said, their defense is really good. I also have a sneaking suspicion we're going to see XFL Battlehawk AJ McCarron's going to end up starting some games down the stretch too.
That'd be fun. I'd be for it.
I'm here for it because Jake Browning ain't it. I'm sorry. It's just not.
Well, neither is AJ McCarron. So no one's it. Like Joe Burrow.
You're right. Joe Burrow is it, and it's heartbreaking. It was heart wrenching to see, but it is what it is. Life moves on. Rebound next season. See what happens. But your Steelers. They are making out like bandits here, Shane. Not only is Joe Burrow out for the season now, and 2 more games against the Bengals.
Right.
Deshaun Watson's out for the season.
Well, they lost. They lost to the
They did lose to Cleveland, but still. I mean, you got to – do you think they're a playoff – or end up a playoff team?
I do. I think they end up a playoff team and get – I think they lose by 30 in the first round of the playoffs, against Miami or something. But
I have never seen a firing of an offensive coordinator more celebrated than the one I saw this week.
When there are hockey games where the chant that broke out, weeks ago was "Fire Matt Canada." Not many other places that would happen. I mean, look, you can't change the system in 4 days. I don't think it's going to make a big difference right now, but the fact that the Steelers have the record they have with one of, if not the worst offense in the league, I think is, a lot of people in Pittsburgh don't like Mike Tomlin. I think it's an impressive coaching performance because this team is not great. This
is very unlike them as well, firing a coach.
Hasn't happened since 1941. They fired a coach in season, and the coach fired himself. He was part owner in 1941.
Well, there you go. All right, so that's going to do it with the top 10 here. of the NFL. We started this last week, and apparently it continues again. We have more college football head coach firings. We had a little short on the YouTube channel earlier in the week where I talked about Dino Babers, the Syracuse head coach, let go. Thoughts on why it stalled out there in Syracuse for him?
To me, it's Syracuse. Like, I don't know. I don't quite, and I want to know what you think. People can watch the short that you made as well. But Syracuse, I don't think is ever going to be an ideal situation. Last 2 years, I know they stalled out and lost games down the stretch, but it's not a great job. And I thought he was building something, was getting better, even if it wasn't all together yet. So I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, because I don't think Syracuse is a great job to take right now.
No, I mean, you're asking a school and Boston College to an extent, although they're winning 6-7 games a year there, but those are outposts in the ACC, right? So you're asking Northeast teams to try to recruit with these teams that are recruiting Florida, and now you're adding 2 California schools and a Texas school to the mix. It's hard. It's hard to get these guys to want to. I'm going to spend 4 years in Syracuse, New York. That's lovely, right? Lovely weather up there. Or I can stay and play in Tallahassee or Miami or somewhere, So it's not a good ask. I think Dino Babers is going to land on his feet really quick. I think he's going to be an offensive coordinator hire for somebody in this cycle. It's going to happen quickly. He's very good at that.
If I was a G5 school, I'd consider him. If you're a lower G5 school, I think I might offer him. I think it'd be worthwhile.
Yeah. A coach not fired this week was Arkansas' Sam Pittman. Got the old "you'll be back" next year from their AD. You seem to not approve of the return of Sam Pittman.
No, it's a big vote of confidence when they have to announce that you'll be back. Like that's always it's always good. I mean, he lost 6 games in a row in the middle of the season, including to BYU. They couldn't score more than 3 points against Mississippi State.
Got smoked by Auburn, who just got smoked by New Mexico State.
I mean, they lost to Liberty last year. Like, I mean, come on. He'll be fired next year. Like you're just delaying the inevitable.
Right. You're basically you're gonna kill another recruiting class, and you're putting your program further behind the 8 ball. Yeah. As it is. A coach we talked about that could be on the way out last week, maybe not. UCLA and Chip Kelly got a big win over Southern Cal this past week. I don't know if he's getting fired or not.
Like I said, I don't think firing of Chip Kelly would have anything to do with what's happened on the field. I think he's done as well as he could with what he has, and you have a true freshman quarterback starting. So I don't know. We'll kind of keep waiting and seeing ultimately and see what comes out about it.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So, I anticipate I'm just going to leave this tab up because I got a feeling next week's podcast we're going to talk about a lot more of these.
And some more.
Let me ask quickly before I go. There is some head coaching kind of news that I just want to get your quick take on these. Rumors that Michigan State has zeroed in on Oregon State's Jonathan Smith. Do you like that?
Right. Yeah, I think if they get that higher, I would be down. I mean, Michigan State's really kind of fallen down the wayside. So I think Oregon State, we've seen what they've done this year. It's been a big turnaround. I don't think you could get a better hire.
Yeah, I hate it for Oregon State, but there's a lot of uncertainty with that school and what the future is, where they're going to play, and all that. So
yeah, you got to jump because you don't know. Right. Like you said, if they fall down, you lose money.
Another rumored potential coupling is San Diego State targeting UNLV offensive coordinator Brennan Marion.
Look, you're the UNLV stan over here, right?
I mean, have you seen the turnaround they made on that offense this year? I would be if I was another Group of 5 school, I'd be all up on Brennan Marion too. Was he the go-go offense? He calls it or whatever.
Yes, please bring it in. Like, let's go. I gotta write that down for college fantasy football next year. San Diego State.
San Diego State. If they hire Brennan Marion, give me all the Aztec offense.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look back week 12 of college football. And before we get to our players of the week, a couple of notes we've got to talk about here. First of all, before we get to the negative, I want to get to the positive, and I want this to be our weekly Jaden Daniels should win the Heisman talk here. What do you have, another 25 touchdowns against Georgia State, another 550 yards or something?
Yeah, I love it that LSU realizes they're out of it, right? So now it's just like
pad the stats. Like, do they play Arkansas this week?
Yes, I believe so.
They may fire Sam Pittman after this week.
Texas A&M this week.
Doesn't matter. They've already fired their coach.
They've already fired their coach.
So, but no, Jaden Daniels, I don't give a crap that they've got 3 losses and he's not going to get to play in a conference championship game. Doesn't matter. He's the best player in college football this year. And if that's what the award's supposed to be, Jaden Daniels should win it.
Like, I mean, is it his fault that his defense gave up 49 to Mississippi? Like, it's not his fault. No. I mean, geez, 8 touchdowns.
Is it his fault that they gave up like 40 second half points to Florida State?
Yeah, right. I mean, they could have won that one. Yeah, 45 to Florida State, 55 to Mississippi. I misread that. And then 42 to Alabama. Like, that's not on him. He performed
also in the game, he got concussed by a dirty hit from Dallas Turner. So
and he still came back the next week and obliterated Florida. So.
Yeah. All right, but the negative news quarterback-wise, Florida State's Jordan Travis. I don't know if you saw the video. I wouldn't advise seeking it out. It's kind of gross. But his ankle went in a way it's not supposed to go, and he is out for the season. His career at Florida State is over. He will enter the 2024 NFL Draft. Potentially was a day 2 quarterback. That's not happening now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was a day 3 quarterback, and now it's going to be pretty tenuous, I think, to get drafted for Jordan Travis. It sucks. It sucks to have an undefeated team and get hurt, and it puts your NFL future at risk too. So hopefully he can rehab and surprise some people in the NFL.
I mean, and the flip side of that, it also puts their national championship hopes, I would almost say, on life support at this point.
I think they went out there. They're on
right. They're going to get in the playoff, but you're going to get rolled by whoever they play, right? Which is probably Georgia, because they would end up being the 4.
Yeah. Look. I think we got a bookend national championships. The first college football 14 playoff. A 3rd-string quarterback won the national title. Why can't it happen again?
So you're saying Orville Redenbacher is a national champion?
Yeah, Orville Redenbacher, the pop.
I don't know. What is his name? It's something Bacher, right? I mean,
yeah, Rodemaker is the
whatever. It doesn't matter.
Rodemaker. Look.
They'll beat Florida this week. I think they're gonna lose to Louisville in the ACC championship game.
It might not be Florida this week. I think it's gonna be close.
Well, Florida's also starting their backup quarterback, right? So
right.
So there you go. All right. We've gotten off the rails. All right. Let's best offensive player you saw this week.
I'll go back to the O-line and going to Oregon State. We just talked about a guy we've talked about a lot on the show, but he's the most impressive offensive player I saw this week, and that's Talise Fuaga, the offensive lineman from Oregon State. Sprung a touchdown on the right side, against Washington. He sealed two defenders for Damian Martinez to score a touchdown in that game to keep it close. I was really impressed with Fuaga this week, and I really think he's gonna be a 1st-round pick. It seems likely to me that he can play on that right side, especially in the NFL, and someone's gonna give him a shot there.
Yeah, I think so. Is he a 1st-round pick?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's 1st-round pick, and I think we could be talking top half the 1st round by the time we get there.
Hope to see him in Mobile. We'll see.
I hope so.
My best offensive player this week stayed home on this one, and it's Xavier Legette, wide receiver from South Carolina. Wasn't a whole lot for me on offense this week, to be honest. Bowling Green and Toledo didn't offer much. Kentucky didn't offer much. Syracuse and Georgia Tech didn't, and neither did Texas or Iowa State, to be honest. I was less than impressed with Quinn Ewers in that football game. So I come back to Xavier Legette here. Had 10 targets in this game. I'm not going to count his run attempts because those were awful. So we're just going to forget we didn't see that. That was desperation moves by the offense that had 2 scholarship running backs. But 6 catches for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. He continues to just improve this week, and he seems to just shows excellence each and every week. And it's just rare that you see a guy who for 4 years dormant and then a 5th year explodes. Those guys maybe don't work out in the NFL most of the time, but we'll see how that goes. I love his play this year at South Carolina. He was one of the 10 finalists for the Biletnikoff. I did vote for him as one of the 10 finalists, the semifinalists, I should say, not finalists. He did get a vote of mine, and I will keep a secret whether I may or may not have voted for him as one of the 3 finalists. But Xavier Legette.
Let's real quick talk about him. I mean, how are you rating him as an NFL prospect? He's having a great year. Like the analytics are going to be really awful on Xavier Legette as an NFL player. Like you said, I mean, to have 4 years of no production.
What do they call that? Is it a breakout, or it's a number that I see Joe Goodberry breakout age? Yeah, his is awful, right? And so his breakout age is what, 22? I assume that's how old he is. That's just a guess. I really don't know. So, yeah, obviously that's going to work against him. I saw someone earlier in the process compare his draft rise, if you will, to Jonathan Mingo a year ago, where the guy did nothing for 3 years and broke out as a senior. So take that for what you will. But he's going to be a height, weight, speed guy, right? Those metrics I think are going to work in his favor.
I mean, if he has the workout numbers, then like Mingo did, then I think it's
yeah. I mean, I think he's going to run a 4.4 or in the 4.4s at 6'2" or probably 6'1.5", 210. So I'm anxious to see what he's been invited to the Senior Bowl. His acceptance hasn't come through yet. I assume it will, so we'll see how he does down here and throughout that process. But he's been very impressive this year, almost single-handedly carrying the wide receiver room at South Carolina with Juice Wells out.
Right.
Who was the best defensive player you saw this week?
I'm going back to a guy that was invited to the Senior Bowl last year, Rook Horhoro from Clemson, defensive lineman. I think we mentioned last week kind of as a notable lineman, didn't make our top 5, but had a sack on Drake May, broke through the pocket and sacked him when the receivers recovered. Really, was crashing that middle against the run as well. Had another tackle for loss. And Maureen Hampton from North Carolina might be the most productive, best running back in the nation. Time when they try to run him up the middle, or Horhoro just did not let him go. Really good at getting off and shedding blocks, better than I thought he was last year. So I think he's definitely improved. And draft wise, day 2, I think is still fair, maybe even high day 2.
I believe we're going to talk about him a little bit later as well. I think. Nope, he is not yet. Never mind. Forget that. But I saw when I saw that this is the guy you were going to talk about. I was like, yeah, man, this is not a guy I want to see coming in on a hot streak this week. But it is what it is. My best defense player, I'm going to go back to that Iowa State-Texas game, and I'm going to talk about a guy who has a Senior Bowl invite as a third-year player. So the first one that we've seen, I think, under the new rule, and that's defensive lineman Byron Murphy from Texas, 6'1", 300 pounds. When I saw him this week, I saw him basically just bull through the Iowa State interior line, and he just, with one hand, just grabbed Iowa State's quarterback and just yanked him down for a sack. He's very quick hands, penetrates quickly in the backfield. Had 1.5 sacks, 2 tackles in the game against Iowa State. Very solid first impression, in my opinion, from Byron Murphy.
He's impressive. I think that whole Texas kind of interior is very, very good. T'Vondre Sweat there, I think, allows Byron Murphy to do a lot of things that he does, and just a powerful player. Like you said, he gets his hands on you. You're not breaking that tackle too often. So I'm excited, hopefully for the Senior Bowl that he got that invite. And I thought there was going to be a little more fanfare when we had the first, underclassmen invited. So it was fun.
Well, he hasn't accepted yet, so maybe
that'll be maybe
the fanfare comes in, because I guess that's kind of the trick right now, is you have to wait till these guys formally declare, right? So
yeah,
so anxious to see how that does work out with some of these other guys. But that's going to do it for our look back at week 12 of college football last week. Some good games last week, not great games last week. We got a lot of good games coming this week, though. And that's why we're going to look ahead now as we preview week 13. Shane, I don't know if you noticed or not, I added an extra game this week. I'm going 5 games this week.
Ooh, nice.
Well, I took Monday off from work, so I got an extra day. So needed something to do. Throw an extra game in there. I decided I wanted to get bored this week with some Iowa offense. So, and I haven't watched them this season, but at 11 a.m. Friday, and for those of you who have been expecting the primer to come up on Saturdays, it will be actually coming out on Friday this week, because we had so many games on Friday. I thought that was just a better editorial decision there. But 11 a.m. on CBS on Friday, Iowa at Nebraska. And we've talked about Iowa a lot this year already, but I'm looking forward to seeing maybe some defensive guys probably on this team, right? But definitely I'm going to see their punter, Torrey Taylor, right? He is declared for the draft. Don't know if you saw that or not. A 4th-year player. He's already said he's in. So we'll see him in the draft. Probably punter 1.
Look, maybe we get like a 3rd or 4th round punter this year.
We shouldn't. Just saying. For Nebraska, my first look at those guys this year, Matt Rule's first year there, and just looking over the list, I feel like the name that sticks out to me the most is maybe their top prospect is Ty Robinson, their interior defensive lineman, 6'6", 305.
Yeah, I think he's probably their biggest. No one's really taken a step forward for Nebraska for me. Iowa will be in the Big Ten championship, so we'll get a chance to see them again next week. Don't you worry. But yeah, Logan Lee, their edge rusher, plays a little bit interior as well, is intriguing for Iowa. I think he's underrated, and Iowa's racked up some injuries too, so you're missing out on a guy we'll talk about later, and a couple tight ends that I still like, but probably won't be playing here.
Yeah. Also Friday, 11 a.m. on ESPN, I'll be watching Memphis at Temple. And for Memphis, couple of players, not a whole lot happening there, I don't believe. I'll let you elaborate on if there's anything that's going to get drafted. I said Temple, right?
Yeah, Temple.
I'm an idiot and put Tulane on the primer. I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to go back and edit that. So anybody on Memphis you like while I'm looking up Temple?
He won't be in this draft, but I do like Memphis's quarterback, Seth Hennigan. I think does have a potential NFL future, so worth keeping an eye on. He's a 3rd-year player. I don't think we're going to see a 3rd-year Memphis quarterback declare for the draft, but I think he's a name that's intriguing. They have a number of running backs there, Blake Watson, Brandon Thomas, maybe in a camp undrafted guys, Javon Ducker. That's probably the best. And Simeon Blair, their safety, is one of the better special teams players. So,
always good to know. For Temple, I like linebacker Jordan McGee. Good size, 6'3", 225 for him there. And as well as their safety, Kamar Wilcoxon, I think is a solid, probably undrafted type player.
Yeah. Yeah, I think McGee has a shot there day 3, so I like that.
6:30 on Friday. Shane, you'll be watching Texas Tech at Texas, and we just mentioned Byron Murphy as a guy to watch. You mentioned Tavondre Sweat. I mentioned earlier I wasn't feeling Quinn Ewers in that game against Iowa State. I can see maybe why he's going back to school, because I don't know that he was going to get drafted as high as maybe we thought he would entering the season.
Right. Yeah, I had another injury. I don't think he's fully healthy, but trying to kind of get them back. So, yeah, I mean, Quinn Ewers didn't play as well as he needed to be a first-round pick. Ultimately, you go back to school as a quarterback when that happens. I'm with you. But at least Texas has a lot of other prospects. They're going to have a lot of guys potentially drafted, I think.
Yeah. They have 6 players invited to the Senior Bowl already. Only one, which we'll talk about in a little bit, Tavondre Sweat, has accepted that invite. Texas Tech has a couple of guys that's committed as of now to the Shrine game, and that's their safety, Dadrion Taylor Demerson, and their edge rusher, Miles Cole. Both those guys currently slated for the Shrine. Do you like those two?
Yeah, I like Miles Cole a lot. I mean, he's a big boy, like plays low, has a good push to him, gets under the pads despite his size. So that's always intriguing to me, because I think there's some 3-4 teams that could use that type of 3-4 end. Taylor Demerson's on the smaller side, but more of a backfield safety. I think, border maybe day 3 type special teams guy.
Yeah. Did not mention it, but Tyler Shaw. Why do I do this every time? Anyway, he's transferring. He will not be with Texas Tech next year.
Yeah. It must be graduate transfer too.
Yes. Yeah. He's like he'll be like a 7th-year player next year. 7:30 on Fox on Friday. I'll be watching Oregon State at Oregon. I've watched both of these teams already, but I felt like I had to get another shot at these two. So, because you keep talking about Fuega, Joshua Gray, their other offensive tackle is super good as well. So, I want that's some intriguing matchups with them on their with the guys like Jordan Birch and the other Uliangole, the young true freshman, DJ's brother, has been rushing the passer very well for Oregon. So anxious to see that matchup, and just seeing Bo Nix and DJ Uliangole. So I didn't put that together. So it's
brother against brother, yeah.
Brother against brother there. That'd be kind of neat, right? And after you brought him up a few weeks ago, I want to see Andrew Chatfield Jr., the edge rusher for Oregon State, and see how he plays, as well as their wide receiver that you've talked me into, Anthony Gold. There, I'll chance to get to see him as well. So that's kind of why I circled back to this game. I was like, I kind of want that one this week.
Yeah. Speed guy. I hope we get to see him against Kyrie Jackson, the corner from Oregon, potentially. Oregon, I think you had we talked about him last week, Brandon Dorlus, their defensive lineman, going into the Bengals in your Bengals mock draft.
I did, which if you're a Bengals fan listening to this, go check that out on the site today. Dropped it a 7-round mock draft. Probably not the last one you're going to see from me now that the Bengals are in draft season, as we so mentioned earlier. But yeah, had him going in the 3rd round. I ultimately don't think that Dorlus, I think he's going to end up going a little bit higher than where I had him in that mock draft. But hey, the simulator giveth, the simulator taketh away, right? So it's very early for the simulators. Let me tell you that. They ain't up to speed just yet. That was my first shot at it this year, Shane. And I'm going to tell you, they ain't ready for prime time yet, baby.
No. There's a cut. None of them out there are ready for it yet.
No, not at all. All right. This is how many years we've been doing this podcast now? The draft is the third year. The Draft Countdown podcast is the third year. Shane will be watching at 11 a.m. on Fox. Same channel, same time every year, too.
Every year.
Ohio State at Michigan, the game.
The game.
It's loaded. There's NFL. There's, 20 guys in this game probably going to be on NFL rosters next year, maybe more.
Maybe more, yeah. It's a lot. Like, I want to see Michigan's offensive line. Miles Hinton, their offensive tackle, had an injury. I don't know if it seems like he'll be back, hopefully, for the game. But, they have a ton of offensive linemen that have potential to get drafted. Drake Nugent, their interior lineman, going up against, some of the guys that you've talked about as the Ohio State defensive line, right? So
right.
I think that's going to be a key matchup. Jack Sawyer for Ohio State starting to come on pretty strong. JT Tuimoloau has had a good edge rushing game. We finally have Mika Egbuka, the receiver, back for Ohio State. He's probably going to draw Mike Sanders still. So I don't know. You could just go on every matchup. There's going to be some NFL player playing in it, let alone Marvin Harrison Jr.
I was going to say, who's going to draw Marvin Harrison Jr. this week?
I think it's going to be the true sophomore from Michigan, Will Johnson, who got smoked by Caden Prather in Maryland last week. So we'll see.
Speaking of Marvin Harrison Jr., he was number 2 on my Biletnikoff ballot.
Wow. Number 2. Jeez.
Leggett was number 3, by the way. I didn't get crazy.
I was going to say, Leggett
I didn't get crazy. I did have him. I shouldn't have voted him number 3, but I couldn't help myself. I don't think we're going to talk about number 1 this week.
Yeah, that's fair.
11 a.m. on ESPN, Shane. You'll be watching, and we talked about it earlier, Texas A&M at LSU. Jaden Daniels going against A&M. One last chance, right, to impress the Heisman voters, because they will not be playing in the SEC championship game. Texas A&M's got a decent defense, right? So if he can dice this team up, that's just another statement for him, right?
Yeah, I think it absolutely is, and I think I think when you talk about the potential in terms of draft capital, I don't think there's a limit to how high it could be.
Yeah, I am at this point not above talking myself into moving him like up to QB2. I'm not above it.
Like over Drake May?
Yeah.
I it wouldn't surprise me if Jaden Daniels got drafted over Drake May. I think there's a world where this is Kyler Murray again, where a team convinces himself, hey, Jaden Daniels, he's older, but has that type of potential, especially if they keep handing him 500-600 yard games. That maybe he's right there with Caleb Williams, and it depends on the team. I think we could be talking about a top 5 pick.
I mean, that's another topic for another day. I think we're with Caleb Williams. I think we're going to run full circle with him between now and the end of April. That's the way the process works, right? We raise them up, then we talk ourselves out of them, and then ultimately we end up right back where we started. The snake eating his tail is what Edgerrin Cooper, stud defensive player for Texas A&M. I just want to talk about.
Yeah, he's as a linebacker, he's been really good. He's definitely not quite on my top 5 linebackers I'll talk about later, but close. I think he's been all over the field, sideline to sideline. Good shout out, good call.
2:30 p.m. on CBS, the game that everybody in the state that I live in will be watching, and this year it'll actually be me too. Alabama at Auburn, the Iron Bowl, if you will, as they call it here. Good luck, Auburn, because last week you just got your asses whipped by New Mexico State. And Shane, I don't know if you watched this game, but they got physically beat up by New Mexico State. I mean, I did. I watched because I had bet on it, but so I was just watching it for that. I was like, and New Mexico State was up like 2 scores at the half. I'm like, they're going to cover at least. And then Auburn just never moved the ball at all. Like they couldn't. Wow. And it was just amazes me. And I'm not saying transitive property is a thing, and rivalries are a whole different animal, but Alabama is going to beat them down this week. Like it's going to be bad. But do want to see, like I said, I do like DJ James. I do like Jalen Simpson, the DB from Auburn there. They've got some DBs. Nehemiah Pritchett as well. But Alabama is just going to be a whole other animal. Jalen Milroe is probably going to run for 200 in this game and throw for 150 and probably account for 5 touchdowns or something. It's going to get ugly.
Look, it's still a rivalry. You never know. I think Auburn can. They have to bounce back from last week, but I also don't know how they're blocking anyone on Alabama's defense. And we've talked Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell, and I think
Justin Boye.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to.
It's going to be ugly, and Peyton Thorne is awful.
Yeah. One Alabama player I do want to shout is Terry and Arnold, their other corner.
Yes.
He gets the talk, but Arnold is really growing on me.
Terry and Arnold will be the cover boy for our when the primer goes up this week.
Oh, I like it.
So, yeah, he's are you buying in that he's the highest drafted corner on the Alabama team?
Not there yet, but I don't hate it. So
I like it. 2:30 p.m. on the ACC network. The Fighting Miranda Wilhelms of Virginia Tech at Virginia. I was exposed to, which I thought he was already on our watch list. I think I took him off last year when he was at Northwestern, but transferred to Virginia. Malik Washington was a Biletnikoff semifinalist, and he's put up monster numbers this year for Virginia. But they go against
you. Maybe you should be voting him number. I mean, we haven't had the final vote, right? We still have to wait till this week's over for the final vote.
Was that? Yeah, we were just voting for the 3 finalists.
But like Malik Washington has a legitimate case to win the Biletnikoff. He has been out of this world.
He's not going to, but he has a legitimate case.
Maybe he should.
Yeah, but Virginia Tech. They've got some good players on this team as well. They have really kind of gotten a lot better since they put drones in at quarterback over Grant Wells, who, struggled. That's a good way to put it. I really love Antoine Powell-Ryland as an undersized edge for Virginia Tech. I don't know if he's in this draft class or not, but I really like the way he plays. And I was impressed with their running back, Basil Tootin, when I watched them a few weeks ago.
Yeah, he's coming on. I think he'll be a mainstay. I also like their right tackle, Parker Clements. I think he has a shot maybe to be a 6th, 7th round pick for Virginia Tech.
Good size, 6'7".
Long boy.
And let's end this thing on maybe the best prospect game of the week. 6:30 p.m. on ESPNU. I'll be watching Charlotte at South Florida. Charlotte's got a couple of defensive linemen, I think, to watch. Double transfer from UT Martin in Michigan. Edge rusher Iyabioki, I think, has some good pass rush ability upside there. And another former Michigander, Julius Welskoff, interior defensive lineman there is okay. Maybe late roundish priority free agent guys. For South Florida, not a whole lot happening here, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, I think maybe the running back Naquan Wright can make a camp. He's been productive in his time and starting to really come on. But their quarterback at South Florida, Byron Brown, really been impressive. He's not in this draft class, but is someone for the future who's an athletic freak.
Yeah, I knew neither one of these teams were going to make a bowl game, so it's like I kind of let's just go ahead and knock this out just in case I got something I need to see. All right, so that's going to do it for our Week 13 preview. We'll be back again next week with this one last time I guess not. I guess we'll do it for the bowls too. But for the championship games. But that moves on to our Lock of the Week segment where, Shane, you're hot. Is this 3 in a row?
3 in a row, baby. We're
in a row.
getting back up to 500 this week.
Shane, you're up to 6 and 7. I won 3 in a row or at least 2 in a row.
Yeah.
I've run 2 in a row here. I'm up to 8 and 5 on the year, man. That's
impressive.
Rock solid for the Lock of the Week. All right, so here we go, Shane, this week. I gave you the theory last week. Fired coaches, interim coaches, cover the next week.
All right, who we got?
Did it? Did they not? Mississippi State covered. Boise State covered. We only got one this week, and that's in Syracuse, where I don't even know the coach's name. It's irrelevant. Interim coach at Syracuse, home against Wake Forest, 2.5 points. Give me the orange this week. Interim coach rule, Lock of the Week.
I like that, actually. I might bet that. Interim coach is going hard. So a tough choice here, but I'm picking one of the games you're watching this week. So I better, I'll get the Discord updates. Give me Oregon minus 13.5 against Oregon State. I think Oregon State's defense is more susceptible than they seem. They're third worst in the Pac-12 at giving up big runs. I think Bucky Irving is going to have a 200-yard, 4-touchdown day for Oregon. They're going to run the ball and be successful. Dan Lanning, I think as a favorite, is covered like 85% of his games. So I'll take Oregon at home anytime, minus 13.5.
I will also like to shout out my 5-game parlay that I hit last week.
Hey, that's
I had South Carolina on Louisville +1, Mississippi State minus 14, Jacksonville State minus 8, which was your Lock of the Week, New Mexico State plus 24.5. I wish I'd have bet the money line on that, for God's sake. And South Carolina money line 5-game parlay all hit. It was a good day. It was a good day.
That's a nice day. Too bad you can't get on ESPN Bet and get the 5 free $50 bets.
I'll tell you. Yeah. Maybe it's not such a good thing.
We probably don't have time, but I signed up and did that. Then my wife's like, I went in, and so she got her like 4 $50 bets. Whatever, if you win, you get to keep the profit. So she bet both sides of Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. So it was an automatic $80 she was going to win. She had to put in 10 to get it. Just took it out.
You gotta love it.
I was like, if you're not addicted, if you're not like us and want to keep gambling, then that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, not bad. So to recap, I've got Syracuse minus 2.5 at home against Wake Forest. Shane has Oregon minus 13.5 at home against Oregon State. So there you go. All right. So that brings us to our second to last position group evaluation here of where we stand in season, and that's the linebackers that we expect to declare for the 2024 NFL Draft. And I waffled a lot on these this week, mostly because I'm staring at 2 Clemson players on my list, and I think they're both going to go, or I'm projecting them both to go, but maybe not. We'll see. But I'll start here, and I'll let you elaborate on why I'm right or wrong. But my number one guy is one of your guys, Shane. Number 1, Tommy Eichenberg, Ohio State. Number 1 on my linebacker board.
I think Tommy Eichenberg's rock solid. I think he's a great off-ball linebacker. He's going to have a long career in the NFL and probably have a ton of tackles. He's just that linebacker that never really gets drafted highly. Right. It's kind of the guys that are falling out of vogue, but he's going to start for a long time. Got hurt last week going to play against Michigan. I think that's huge. He's number 2 on my list, but I think whoever drafts Tommy Eichenberg is going to get a guy for 10 years that they can just plug right in the middle, and he's going to get 100 tackles.
Testing is going to be big for him, right? Because it worked out for Jack Campbell last year, but he tested like a freak.
Right. And Eichenberg's not that.
Not that, right? Okay.
So.
All right. So who's number one on your list? And I got a feeling I know who it is.
Yeah, I'm sticking with one of the Clemson guys here. I'm going with Barrett Carter, the linebacker out of Clemson, who's been the most impressive to me this year, in terms of how he commands against the run. It's just the ability to identify what the offense is doing, see where the running back's going, hit that hole, clean angles, make the tackle in the backfield. Barrett Carter is like a heat-seeking missile out there. It's really impressive. I think his instincts are the best in this class to me by far, and that's what puts him number one to me. Is he a first-round pick? I don't think so. So I don't think he's a first-round pick in this group, but I think Carter is the best of the group.
Carter's number two on my board as well, and you said Eichenberg's number two on yours. So we just flip-flop there. I'm with you. Neither of these guys are drafted in the first round, nor should they be, in my opinion. It's almost getting like running back at this point. Although I would say Detroit is very happy with their early results from Jack Campbell so far at pick 18. So if at this point, if it's your guy, just draft your guy and make it work, right?
Yeah. I think you got to do it, especially if your scheme needs that player.
Yeah.
Draft that player.
Right. All right. So number 3 on my board is another Clemson player, and this guy's going to be that high risk, high reward because that's the way he plays on the field. He gambles a lot, misses a lot, but when he hits, right? So it's Jeremiah Trotter Jr. From Clemson, undersized listed only at 6 foot 210. So this cat's going to need a good weigh in, right? Because if he comes in 5'11", 210, it's not good, right?
Yeah, I've heard he's bulked up, hopefully to 220 to 230 ish, which to me is good. So I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, I see him on the field, and I think he's could maybe be almost a 50% Micah Parsons in the way he could scheme out at the NFL level. Is that fair?
We've seen that now the last 3 games. They've started to really scheme him on the edge. He has, I think, 4 sacks in the last 3 games. So we're starting to see that kind of utility of moving Jeremiah Trotter Jr. at edge, at weak side, doing a little bit of everything. So I'm with you. I think we're seeing it. I thought he had the best 3. I watched 2 of the 3. I think he had 2 of the best games I've seen there.
Yes, and to me, if teams are seeing that as a way to, as a matchup for him, that gets him maybe drafted higher than these other 2 guys.
Right.
All right. Who's number 3 for you?
So I'm bypassing my number 3 player, who I don't think will declare.
Is it Danny Stutzman?
It is not.
Okay.
It is Cedric Gray, the linebacker from North Carolina, who I've talked about on the podcast. He's a 4th-year player, but can go back. So I think he might end up going back to school ultimately, but that's my thinking with Cedric Gray. So 2021, yeah. So I'm going with Trotter. I have him at 3. Then that would bump him up. And I'm with you. Like I think the versatility. 82 tackles this year is nothing to sniff at. I think he has better instincts than Trenton Simpson did last year for Clemson. I think Trotter got better. Early in the season was rough. It's getting better throughout the season. So it wouldn't surprise me, like you said, if he ends up linebacker 1 for us by the end again.
In my last mock draft, I had him going at 64, I think, to the Eagles, just because I thought that was just fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoy doing that all the
time. Number 4 on my list, on my rankings, is Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma, but I think he's going to stay in school. So I bypassed him, and number 4 on my list now is the guy who you just said you don't think is going is who you think is going to go back to school, who and we're going to talk about in a minute, is one of the guys who's accepted a Senior Bowl invite.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess I should have included him.
Did you not know that?
I know. I must have missed that. So, all right, that's fine. Yeah. No, it's fine.
Okay. Number 4 on my board, and because I think he offers the pass rush as well as the instincts in space, and solid as in coverage a little bit as well. And I saw him against South Carolina wreck shop, so that was my first initial impression of Gray early in the season.
Well, that's fine. I'll pop him into 3, and if he's going to the Senior Bowl, he's obviously going to declare over 100 tackles already this season. Good in coverage. Has a little bit of that pass rush ability up the middle. I think Cedric Gray, isn't going to be a world beater. He's not a firm wrap up tackler. I think it comes and it goes for him. A little bit of coaching, I think he could be a really good player.
So that will move Trotter down to 4 on your board.
Yep.
So we've gone. So now we'll get to number 5, and number 5 for me, I think is like kind of the way you described Eichenberg a little bit, as a guy who is he's going to 100 tackles, but never flashy, but just does the job. And it's a guy like this, I think, and I said it last week, I said, I'm going to have a guy in my top 5 linebackers that I don't think is going to be a top 100 pick. And that's going to be Peyton Wilson from NC State. Another guy I fully expect to end up at the Senior Bowl, 6th-year player, but great size at 6'4", 230. Just very instinctive. Like I said, just makes plays. But he's a guy that I just don't think – and if he does go in the top 100, it's going to be like in the 90s, I think, Peyton Wilson. But, he's going to play a long time in the NFL.
I think it will play a long time in the NFL. I have him more as a day 3 player. I don't think the workouts are going to be particularly great, and I think that's going to be the issue. But I mean, man, how many linebackers have we seen even go undrafted who end up starting in the NFL?
Ivan Pace this year. I mean, Ivan Pace has been starting day 1 from Minnesota.
Right. And we both had him pretty high. Yeah. Should have been drafted.
All right, who's number 5 for you?
So I'm going to bypass my next 3 linebackers, I think, on my list. Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma included, and the 2 Georgia guys, Smail Monda and Jamon Dumas-Johnson, all 3rd-year players. Maybe one of them declares. I'm going to go with Tyrone Hopper out of Missouri as my number 5. I was really impressed when I saw him a couple weeks ago, just with the instincts against Tennessee. Didn't play this past week against Florida, but he's a really good coverage linebacker. They've dropped him into coverage. He's played well as a pass rusher. He's played some edge as well because he's a little bit undersized, probably 215, I would guess he is. So Hopper, I think, is intriguing, has some athleticism. Not going to fit every team, but it could be a versatile linebacker.
For sure. Yeah, I'm with you on Hopper. There are some guys that, for me, that just, outside looking in, just one name kind of that I'll pull back and forth. Tatum Bethune, Florida State. I think he's got the moxie, and he'll be a special teams guy for sure at the NFL level, but I think with starter potential.
Yeah, that's a good name. He's had a long, illustrious career. You mentioned Jordan Cooper from Texas A&M, who I think has played really, really well this season. I also like Jackson Mitchell from UConn, J.J. Weaver from Kentucky. So, I don't know. It's not a great linebacker class.
It's not.
They never are anymore,
Yeah, it's really not. Another productive player from Florida State, Kalen DeLoach, I think, had a good season this year as well. All right, so recapping our top 5 linebackers for me, I had Tommy Eichenberg, Ohio State, 1, 2, Barrett Carter, Clemson, 3, Jeremiah Trotter, Clemson, 4, Cedric Gray, North Carolina, 5, Peyton Wilson from NC State. For Shane, 1, Barrett Carter from Clemson, 2, Tommy Eichenberg, Ohio State, 3, Cedric Gray, North Carolina, 4, Jeremiah Trotter, Clemson, and 5, Tyrone Hopper, Missouri. That is our top 5 linebackers that we currently expect to enter the 2024 NFL draft. now. Lastly, this week, Senior Bowl is just, they're going nuts, Shane, and we're way long on this one, so we won't go crazy with it. But I'm just going to go through the guys who have accepted invites this week, and that's wide receiver Jacob Cowing from Arizona, offensive tackle Jordan Morgan from Arizona.
Yeah, great, two great guys. I mean, I think both are top 100 picks.
The two easiest projections I made on my defensive projections was a pair of corners, Auburn's DJ James and Missouri's Chris Abrams-Drain.
Mobile natives, right? They're going to make it in.
Yep. Duke had a pair, Graham Barton, the offensive tackle who we've heard will work out at center during the week, and Dwayne Carter, their interior defensive lineman.
I'm excited about Graham Barton at center. You told me that, and I was like, oh, yeah, if he could show out, really could help his draft stock.
A pair of guys from the Sunshine State, Florida State, Western Michigan transfer defensive line, Braden Fiskey. And we talked about him a lot as a big slot wide receiver, Ricky Pearsall from Florida.
Yeah, we both thought Pearsall would go. He's had a good year. And, yeah, Fiskey's interesting. I want to see how it performs down there in the pit.
Louisville wide receiver Jamari Thrash transferred from, was it Georgia State? I believe it was. And safety from Maryland, Bo Braid.
Yeah, I like Jamari Thrash. I don't think I projected him to go. I thought he was on the line, but
you did.
I did. Okay, he was kind of my last in for receivers because he's had such a great season in that scheme. So I'm excited to see. I think he's going to eat up one-on-ones. I'll say that.
Miami interior offensive line Javion Cohen. I feel like we've been talking about him for 3 years now. Transferred over from Alabama a couple years ago, and he's joined by Missouri defensive lineman Darius Robinson. Yeah, I've got to go back and watch that Missouri game on that I have.
Darius Robinson's super athletic, really intriguing. I like his upside, and Cohen has never put it together, so maybe the Senior Bowl will be it.
We'll see. We've talked about him earlier, Cedric Gray, who you didn't know had accepted a Senior Bowl invite.
I saw he was invited. I didn't know he accepted.
Linebacker from North Carolina. We also talked about Tavondre Sweat earlier, defensive lineman from Texas. Toledo corner, Quinyon Mitchell, a guy we talked a lot about last week. I watched him this week. Impressive player. He gets the call, as does cornerback from Washington State, Chow Smith-Wade. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, I mean, Chow Smith-Wade, he recently moved into my top 20, light, but super fast, very athletic, great back pedal, quick. I think he'll be one of those guys moving up boards because of the athleticism.
Versatile offensive lineman from West Virginia, but he's going to play center as well, Zach Frazier.
I mean, I still love Zach Frazier. I think he's so tough. I'm excited to see him.
And finally, the best for last, South Carolina quarterback Spencer Rattler coming to Mobile.
Yeah, former Oklahoma quarterback, 5-star recruit who got benched for Caleb Williams. Has performed well for you guys the past 2 years, and maybe has a shot to establish some upside to get drafted.
We were talking about it on the Garnet Roost podcast last night, me and Nino, and you've been to Mobile during these Senior Bowl practices. That wind cuts a little bit different on some of them days down there, and a lot of these quarterbacks struggle. Rattler will not struggle with the wind.
No, he has the arm to get it done. So that might put him. We'll get some days of like, oh, Spencer Rattler's the most impressive quarterback. Wow, we'll get some of those.
That may or may not come from me, but we'll see. All right, we had a couple questions on Twitter. We'll get the draft one out of the way first, and then I'll turn the other one over to you. But Dennis Knoll from CFP Nation asks, if Cooper DeJean comes out, do you see him more as a corner or as a safety hybrid? I think we've talked about this. I think we both like him at corner now, right?
I just think getting a corner is more impactful, and he can do it. Like, he can be a cover corner. Does he end up playing a slot, corner, safety hybrid in the NFL? Maybe those lines are waving, but yeah, I think he's a corner.
And finally, at Chimp_Magnet asks, how do you rank these 4 running backs in PPR this week? A fantasy question. It's all you, Shane.
Look, you just vetoed a trade in your league as the commissioner, so
well,
you might have to.
It was very, very obvious what I had to do there. I'm not even sure who Javonte is. Who is
Javonte Williams, the running back for the Denver Broncos?
Thank you. Devin Achane, Zach Charbonnet, Raheem Mostert. Rank those 4 in PPR.
Yeah, it's tough. I think I'm going Raheem Mostert just because he's going to get the volume. Achane re-injured his knee. He might still play, but I think Mostert to get most of the work. I'm going to take Zach Charbonnet second. Ken Walker's down. I think Charbonnet's going to have a good game this week for Seattle. And then I'll go A-Chain for the upside, and then Javonte's a solid floor, but not much upside to score a lot.
Tough draw for Charbonnet against the 49ers, though.
It is. But yeah, hope he catches some passes.
Oh, I hope so. I picked him up on waivers this morning.
There you go.
All right. So that's going to do it for the Twitter questions or this week. Normally we go with final thoughts here, but Shane, I thought, with it being on Thanksgiving Eve here, we could just tell, what we're thankful for this year at Draft Countdown. And I know me personally, I'm thankful for everybody that comes to the site and reads every day, everybody that listens to this podcast, everybody that watches our YouTube videos, everybody that just supports everything that we do. I'm just thankful for everybody.
Yeah, no, I definitely am too. I mean, I'm definitely thankful for the people too that interact on Twitter and show their support and ask questions and like, hey, I read this, I saw this, and give us feedback. That's what I really love about the fans that we have at Draft Countdown, why it's sustained so long. So thank you.
And also, I just want to say I'm thankful for each and every person that contributes to the site. You, Shane, I mean, you're constantly just with all these mock drafts. It's insane, man. The work that you do in these future rankings and just the traffic that stuff draws. Amazing. It blows my mind every time I see it, but you work so hard on that stuff. I want to thank Brad, man, who's taken on extra stuff for us this year, doing a lot of our social media stuff, cutting up all these YouTube shorts and everything. He's been great at that. Miranda with her NFL stuff's been great this year. And it's really been fun reading Pigskin Paul's like rookie stuff every week. It's very insightful. If you haven't checked those out, he usually posts that stuff every Friday. So it's good stuff there. But everybody that writes for this site, man, it's just so awesome.
Yeah, I think we've got a great group right now, and I'm really happy that everyone is so successful and independent and does, enjoys it. So, I love the group that we have at Draft Countdown this year.
Yeah, it's awesome. So thanks everybody again for reading everything that you as always, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, like the videos. If you're listening to this on an audio platform, leave us a 5-star review, be it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever it is you listen to your podcast, and share that out as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft. Follow Shane on Twitter at Shane P. Howell. Follow Draft Countdown on Twitter at Draft Countdown. And as always, go to draftcountdown.com for all of your NFL draft needs. For Shane, I'm Brian, and I'm saying it's okay to eat ham on Thanksgiving. Good night, everybody.